Hello, my name is Jason and welcome back to I Have a Story. Last week on Monday, I aired a video that was an emotional one, obviously. And I talked harsh about people that obviously you don't know. And I don't want to just make people out to be monsters and horrible people, especially my sister, because my sister is truly a kind-hearted, she's a loving person, but she's fallen victim to a lot of the bad of the world too, and especially what our childhood was. Even though she didn't suffer the same my brother and I did, and really on the opposite end of the spectrum, she suffered bad and good. They treated, it's very common. I have it in my own heart to be more compassionate to females than I do men. That's absolute. Again, I've never seen a deer, mom and baby, walk out into the field and look around and then call dad out of the woods and say it's safe. That is natural. Not just human, it's nature. My sister was a victim to a lot too. And I was digging through something that has been buried in me for a long time. Sure, it pops up every once in a while, and it hurts. And then making a video to have to talk about it and digging it back up and go through it all again hurts even more. And more and more. But I don't want to just make people out to be bad people either. As part of talking about the bad is you get the view of the bad and you don't get the good either. And my sister is a good person in a lot of ways. But just like so many people have fallen victim to the bad in their life too. I understand that she stood behind her husband because she had kids and a family with him, and in one sense was forced to. She didn't want to lose that and give that up. Even through a lot more that I'm not going to talk about in their marriage. That to me isn't right. I can talk about a lot of things and even point out some people, but I'll only go so far. But it's also part of how we get through really bad problems is by talking about them, sharing them. So I do want to say that while I talked harsh and hard, I do want to share that there is good there too. Those were also the final years I got to spend with my grandpa. My last two Christmases I get to remember with my grandpa, the last two were that. I've also talked about how my grandparents, if it wasn't for that grandpa and his wife, when we were kids, we would have never had anything good in our life. They're the ones who gave it all to us. They're the ones who paid for our school clothes and took us school shopping and birthdays and all of it. My dad was too busy spending his money on alcohol and toys for himself that he didn't have money for his family. Part of why I am so the opposite, because I lived it. And I don't ever want to become like that. Terrible. It's terrible. I know the feeling of it so much, and that's part of why I push against so much of it. My grandparents were wonderful, wonderful people, and if it weren't for them, our childhood would have just been nothing but devastational, day in and day out. So to spend that last time with my grandpa, that's how it had to be, especially when I came up with such a good heart going, for a lot of people, especially today, who believe that a picture frame, especially, in the situation of an elderly person, especially an elderly person back when those first came out, and an elderly person who wasn't into technology, that was, in my mind, a really great gift. You get to sit there and watch the screen scroll, see the pictures of what his family and grandkids were doing, especially at his cottage that was One of the lifebloods of my childhood. The best memories of my childhood, my happy place when I was a kid. That not only did I sit there, God, I don't know how to, there's so much to talk about in my life. Like my parents stealing my grandparents' will and inheritance, and all of our inheritances. And my dad took over that cottage, the cottage he wasn't supposed to be at and wasn't allowed at because my grandparents hated him. And I know they're rolling in their graves right now knowing he's the one there taking it over. They didn't want him to have it. They didn't want him to even be there. They hated that man because of what he did to their daughter and their grandkids. But he's the one who took it all. And that was my happy place as a kid. So as I share my life stories and I talk bad about people and even trying to keep my videos short, a lot of them I'll follow up when I feel I need to or pay attention to it even. I mean, our brains, and especially my brain in the state that I'm in right now, struggling, I miss a lot. So I want to follow that last video up with this one that, my sister, she had her goods and her bads like everybody. And I don't want to just paint her as a bad person. She really fell victim to a lot of what she married into, as well as what I've shared in my emotions of what she's married into and what her marriage did even to our family. And it was painful because family is what I was raised on. It's what I was raised to believe. It's what's in my core soul, and that's what I desire more than anything. That was supposed to be the American dream, and for me, it's been the American nightmare.